In a vast assembly of alien civilizations, the grandeur of the galactic fleet filled the cosmos. Each ship, a marvel of advanced engineering, reflected the power of its creators. At the center of it all, humanity stood as the newest inductees, humbled by the technological superiority on display. The alien leaders, particularly the Archelans, a species known for their smug arrogance, watched humanity with a mix of amusement and disdain. "We offer this as a gesture of inclusion," one of the Archelan delegates announced, gesturing to a ship that seemed barely operational. It was a battered relic, small compared to the towering vessels surrounding it. Its hull bore scars of centuries-old conflicts, and its systems flickered with instability. To the Archelans, this was a calculated act. Humans were the youngest, least advanced race, and offering them the weakest ship was a subtle reminder of their inferiority. The human delegation, led by Captain Marcus Reyes, exchanged uneasy glances. Whispers of discontent rippled among the team. Dr. Eliza Carter, a physicist with a penchant for speaking her mind, leaned toward Marcus. "This is an insult, you know that, right? They're setting us up to fail." Marcus didn't respond immediately. His gaze was fixed on the ship, assessing its potential. Despite its dilapidated state, there was a challenge in the gift, a gauntlet thrown in mockery. "Let them laugh," he finally said. "We'll see who's laughing when this is over." The Archelans observed their reactions closely, their sharp, crystalline features glinting under the artificial starlight of the assembly hall. One of them smirked, leaning toward another delegate. "Watch how quickly they crumble." Humans are a curious species, stubborn, but ultimately predictable. The humans were escorted to their new vessel. Inside, it was even worse than they feared. The life support system was barely functional. The propulsion engine emitted an alarming whine, and the onboard AI stuttered in broken sentences. Eliza ran her hands over the ship's control console, frowning. "It's a miracle this thing didn't implode the moment they powered it up." Marcus called the crew together. "I know this isn't what we hoped for," he began, his voice steady but firm. "But this ship is what we've got. They think they've handed us a failure. Let's prove them wrong." The crew's morale shifted. Determination sparked among them as they examined the ship piece by piece. Engineers dove into its archaic systems, while technicians mapped out every flaw. Eliza discovered a peculiar energy signature emanating from the ship's core, a feature the Archelans had dismissed as obsolete. "This isn't just a power source," Eliza murmured, her eyes wide with fascination. "This core operates on quantum principles. If we can figure out how to harness it, we might have something they don't expect." Marcus nodded. "Then let's get to work." Far above, in the grand observation chamber of the Archelan Council, their leaders watched with bemusement. "Let them tinker," one said dismissively. "It will make their eventual failure all the more entertaining." The first days aboard the ship were grueling. The crew worked tirelessly, disassembling panels, running diagnostics, and poring over the ship's outdated systems. Every corner seemed to hide another problem, from corroded circuits to malfunctioning thrusters. Yet, amid the chaos, Eliza Carter's discovery of the quantum core became their guiding light. "It's more than we thought," she explained during a late-night briefing, her voice tinged with excitement. "This core doesn't just generate power, it interacts with localized quantum fields. It's like having the ability to nudge reality, but the tech was abandoned because it's unstable." Captain Reyes leaned forward. "Unstable how?" "If the parameters aren't precisely controlled, it could collapse space in a confined area," she admitted. "But if we stabilize it, we'd have a ship capable of bending the rules of physics. No one else in the fleet has this." The crew's skepticism was palpable, but Reyes saw the potential. "Then we stabilize it. Let's make this ship something they'll never see coming." Work began immediately. Engineers improvised solutions using salvage materials brought from Earth and the few spare parts the ship still had. One by one, problems were addressed. The propulsion system was rewired, its archaic design enhanced with human ingenuity. The life support systems were patched together with redundant backups, ensuring survival even under extreme conditions. The real breakthrough came when Eliza and her team finally accessed the quantum core's deeper functions. It wasn't just a power source. It was a tool capable of shifting matter and energy in ways no alien species had ever attempted. They tested cautiously at first, running simulations and small-scale experiments. One such test involved a damaged section of the hull. ELIZA activated the core, channeling its energy to manipulate the atomic structure of the metal. Before their eyes, the breach sealed itself, the metal reforming as if time had reversed. The room fell silent, the implications dawning on everyone. Did that just an engineer started, but ELIZA cut him off? Yes, it rewrote the molecular structure. And this is only scratching the surface. The ship's modifications took on a new intensity after that. The crew worked with a focus that bordered on obsession. Marcus often walked through the ship, offering encouragement and lending a hand wherever needed. He knew morale was as critical as their technical progress. Despite setbacks, an electrical fire in the control room, a near-fatal miscalculation during a core test, they pushed forward. Slowly, the ship transformed. Its clunky exterior hid a growing arsenal of advanced human-alien hybrid systems, each one designed to exploit the quantum core's capabilities. Meanwhile, the alien observers began to notice the energy surges emanating from the vessel. In their council chambers, the Arkelans debated. "They're tampering with technology they barely understand," one remarked. "They'll destroy themselves." Another countered, "Perhaps, but if they succeed, it could alter the balance of power in the fleet." Unaware of these discussions, the humans continued their work. The once derelict ship was now an anomaly, defying expectations at every turn. When the final systems test was conducted and the quantum core hummed in stable alignment, Marcus stood before his crew. "This ship is ours now," he said, pride evident in his voice. "They gave us their weakest, but we've turned it into something they can't predict. Let's show them what humans can do."
The announcement of the competition sent ripples through the fleet. Every species prepared to showcase their strength, agility, and technological prowess. For the humans, it was an opportunity to prove their worth. But skepticism from the other factions loomed heavy. When the Exile-class vessel Omega appeared on the roster, laughter echoed through the galactic channels. "They're entering that thing," a Xerian pilot mocked. "What's next, a scrap heap derby?" Undeterred, Captain Reyes and his crew finalized their preparations. They had no illusions about the challenges ahead. This wasn't just about testing technology. It was a trial of strategy, resilience, and adaptability. The first event, a race through a dense asteroid field, was announced. Most ships relied on brute force or superior shielding to plow through. The Omega, with its outdated armor, had to take another approach. As the countdown ended, the human ship lagged behind initially, navigating cautiously. The crew watched the larger ships smash their way through the asteroids with ease. But as the field grew tighter, the quantum core was activated. Using micro-distortions in the ship's field, the Omega began to bend space just enough to slip through impossible gaps. Onlookers gasped as the ship performed maneuvers that defied logic. Where other vessels scraped against rocks or took damage, the Omega danced through the debris like a ghost. By the end of the course, it finished in the top tier, a result no one had anticipated. The second challenge was a simulation of planetary colonization. Teams had to land on a hostile environment, establish a functional base, and endure extreme conditions. Here, the ingenuity of the human crew shone brightly. While others relied on advanced prefabricated modules, the humans used the ship's quantum core to manipulate the terrain itself. When a sandstorm threatened to bury their base, the Omega projected a distortion field that redirected the winds, creating a safe zone. When temperatures plummeted, the crew harnessed the core's energy to stabilize the area's climate. The human team not only survived but turned the harsh planet into a livable environment faster than any competitor. The aliens began to take notice. What had initially been seen as luck or desperation now seemed like calculated brilliance. The Arkelans, watching from their private chamber, grew uneasy. "They're not just surviving," one of them said. "They're innovating." The final challenge, a simulated fleet battle, was the ultimate test. teams faced off in a high-stakes scenario designed to assess tactical prowess and firepower. The Omega was pitted by the audience. It lacked the heavy weaponry or reinforced shields of its competitors. But the humans had a different plan. As the simulation began, the Omega vanished from the battlefield, using its quantum core to phase out of detectable space. Enemy ships fired blindly, unable to lock on. Then the Omega reappeared, striking at vulnerable points with surgical precision. Using distortions to manipulate enemy trajectories, the humans turned their enemies' superior firepower against them. Ships collided, missiles veered off course, and chaos erupted. By the end of the battle, the Omega stood as the last ship remaining. The simulation ended, and the galactic audience was left in stunned silence. Humanity, the species they had dismissed, had emerged victorious. The Omega's victory rippled across the fleet, a wave of disbelief and awe. Alien spectators who had mocked humanity's participation now found themselves questioning everything they thought they understood about the species. The humans, with their ragged ship and unorthodox methods, had outmaneuvered and outperformed civilizations that had dominated the galactic stage for centuries. Aboard the ship, the crew erupted in celebration. Engineers hugged, technicians cheered, and even the typically stoic Captain Reyes allowed himself a rare smile. In the mess hall, laughter and joy echoed as the crew toasted their triumph. But amidst the celebration, there was an undercurrent of reflection. This wasn't just about winning, Eliza said, addressing a group gathered around her. We've shown them that being underestimated is our greatest strength. They gave us the weakest tool, and we turned it into something they couldn't predict. Reyes stood nearby, listening. His pride in the crew was evident, but he also knew their journey was far from over. When the celebration quieted, he addressed the entire team. We've proven that humanity belongs here. But let's not forget why we fought so hard. This isn't just about us. It's about the generations to come, about showing the galaxy that humanity isn't defined by limits, but by potential. Elsewhere, the Archelan Council convened in a more somber atmosphere. Footage of the Omega's maneuvers played on large displays, analyzed frame by frame. The council members, who had once dismissed the humans as inconsequential, now spoke in hushed, uneasy tones. They've mastered a technology we abandoned, one said, gesturing to the projection of the Omega phasing out of existence during the final battle. And they've done it in a fraction of the time it took us to reject it as unstable. Another leaned back in their chair, crystalline features shimmering with tension. If they can do this with scraps, imagine what they'll achieve with resources. We might have created a problem far greater than we anticipated. The debate raged on, but one thing was clear. Humanity could no longer be ignored. The Archelans had intended to humble them, to remind them of their inferiority. Instead, they had given humans the means to defy expectations, and it unsettled them deeply. Back on the Omega, the crew prepared for their next steps. The ship, once derided as a relic, now carried the weight of new possibilities. They had renamed it Reality's Edge, a fitting tribute to the quantum core that had redefined their future. As the Omega powered up to leave the competition grounds, its quantum core hummed with a steady, confident rhythm. Marcus stood on the bridge, gazing out at the stars. "This is just the beginning," he said quietly. Eliza, standing beside him, nodded. "They're watching us now. Let's give them something to remember." The ship accelerated, leaving behind the fleet and the echoes of its triumph. In the silence that followed, one fact remained undeniable. Humanity had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same.